Well, as both Phil and Tom have said, we're going to do a demo. This is really just to give you a sort of brief insight into what coaching for story or writer coaching actually looks like in practice. This is not pre-scripted. It is going to be done completely off the cuff. Phil is going to act as the coach, and Tom is going to bring a challenge that he's facing in some of his writing. Now, Phil had said that coaching is a non-directive process. It's enabling a space where people can explore ideas. What we want you to look at is and note the deliberate one point where Phil is going to deliberately step out of that role. And I want you to note when that happened, what was it that Phil did, and what was the impact in terms of the relationship between Phil and Tom as coach and coachee. And the next one I want you to look at is what are the really good, powerful, open questions that Phil uses as a coach. So if you could just make a note of some of those as well. And then think about what that did to Tom. When those questions were posed, what was the impact on Tom of that question? Phil and Tom, you okay? You ready to go?
Oh, yeah, thanks,
Yeah,
Pippa.
and I'll hand over to you then.
Thanks very much. So, Tom, we have a fairly short time, maybe about 10 minutes or so, to explore whatever it is you're going to bring to this session. We'll just say to the group that normally we might take an hour. And so we're going to be condensing this into something like a sixth of what we might normally do. But let's do what we can in that time. And as Pippa says, at one point I'll break out from my normal coaching process to be a little bit more directive. Let's see what happens when that happens. So, Tom, I don't really know what you're going to bring to this session. You gave me a very broad idea, but can you just tell me what the issue is around your writing you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, I'm adapting a play to a story, and I'm struggling with it.
Well, that sounds very clear. You're adapting a play to a story and you're struggling with it. Okay, so I feel pretty clear that's the issue that you're bringing. In terms of what you'd like to get out of this, though, what is the takeaway you're looking for from this coaching?
I'd like to find the sort of narrative perspective on it. That's the thing I'm struggling with.
And how will you know, Tom, you've got that? How do you know you've got what you want?
I think it'll start to flow in a way it isn't at the moment. The plays are sort of, what are they? They're sort of weird first person, and there's some. It's quite a journey to take that from being something that works on the page. So I think I'll have a sense that the characters are starting to sort of speak a bit more strongly on the page, and I can hear them and see them on the page a bit rather than on the stage.
Okay, so you'll have a sense and you'll be seeing and hearing different things on the page from what you currently have. So what has to happen in this session for you, Tom, to make it successful?
I'd like to think there might be some magic aha moment where I would suddenly go, of course, here is the answer.
So just a bit of magic,
Yeah,
no
if you
problem.
wouldn't
Yeah.
mind, just
Well, coaching is about hopefully developing insights. So let's see what we can do. So tell me, what's happening right now, and what have you tried so far?
I keep hitting a sort of wall. I've tried first person, I've tried third person. I'm just not finding it. It's not taking off. It's not flowing. It sort of feels like the characters are trying to get back on the stage as opposed to inhabiting the page a bit.
Yeah. And when you describe that, how does it make you feel?
A bit cross, but I can't get them off the stage.
You can't get them off the stage.
Mm.
So what critically has to happen, Tom, to get them off the stage?
I think the balance has to shift. They sort of have to want to be on the page. So what's happening on the page needs to be much stronger, much deeper, much more profound and powerful than the stage.
Yeah. Okay. So let's assume success. In an ideal world, what's going to be happening for you around this task?
They'll come to life. I'll start hitting that moment when they're occupying the story as opposed to the play, I'm even, you know, I'm interested in my own, I keep referring back to the play, so I can feel
Mm.
in my own head there's that draw. So it would be stopping to feel that draw, that I'm there on the page, the writing's flowing, the characters are working.
Okay, thank you. So you've told me a bit about what hasn't really worked so far, hasn't quite taken you where you want to go with this. And what's your reflection and learning from what hasn't worked?
I think I've just given up too soon, because I take it to the point when it would normally be working and it doesn't. And that's the point I've just sort of, you know, moved myself away from the page a bit.
Okay, so you've given up too soon, I heard you say. Yeah, and I know you quite well from our previous conversation. I don't take you to be a quitter. I'm just wondering what's caused you to give up too soon.
Um, I think I've got used to my own process, and actually this is a bit of a different process. I think I have to write more and harder and deeper to find it than I'm used to.
Write more, harder, and deeper. How does that feel when you say that?
Um, I quite like it. I can sort of feel myself rolling my sleeves up a bit.
Okay, okay. So some energy that comes from that,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
recognition you need to work harder and deeper. Okay. So let's look at some different approaches. You know broadly you have to kind of work at it and go a bit deeper into it. What sort of approaches might help you to get where you want to go?
I, I, I think it's the keeping going.
Keeping going. Tom, you say this, and it just sounds like such hard work. I wonder why you don't just give up. Just start again and do something different. Just feels like hard work.
Yeah, maybe I should.
But you're not going to, are you? I don't believe you would stop. So how would you motivate yourself and energize yourself to put in this harder, deeper work?
I sort of have to kind of fall back in love with the story a bit, and remind myself of its central sort of meanings and themes, and write to those a bit more, have a bit more of a beacon there.
Right. So meaning be a beacon. And how clear are you right now on the meaning of the story?
Yeah, I'm pretty clear. I'm pretty clear. It's about the sort of fear and loss in these two characters, and how they come together to recognize that in the end.
So you know what the story means, and you know you've got to go deeper and harder into it. You've got to make stuff come alive on the page. You've got to get your head out of the play. So it sounds like you know quite a lot already about what you need to do. What might be a first step for you or a next step?
Well, interestingly, as we're talking, I thought I knew the next step, but I've realized it wasn't what I thought it was. It's that I
Okay.
probably need to start writing um, the other character, in, a different character in the piece. That I've begun with the central character, and actually, because they're a very powerful character, particularly in the play, I think I'd get more mileage from starting with the character who appears to be the secondary character, but isn't really.
Okay.
Because
So
in the
that's a
play,
different
that character's
perspective.
less well formed.
Yeah. So that sounds like a very different perspective. You've had an assumption, it sounds like, that you need to start with a central character, but now you're challenging that a bit.
Hmm.
So if you were to take that different character's perspective, what might be your first, how might you start to explore that?
I'd 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 write her journey in a bit more depth in the play. She sort of enters having had this experience, and actually I could write the experience, and that would give me something that isn't in the play. So that would give me a chance to establish it on the page in a literary kind of a way, very differently.
Right. So as I heard that, you'll start writing stuff that isn't in the play,
Yeah.
and that kind of gets you out of the play.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you hear yourself say that, what does that feel like?
It feels much closer to a process I'm used to, of, starting with a lot less and creating it.
And how does it feel in terms of your energy and your motivation?
I'm excited by that. I mean, it's sort of more what I'm used to. So I've got that sense of, oh, but I don't know, I don't know what that is. But that's something I'm used to experiencing. I never know what it is until I start doing it. And that's very
Right.
different because you're adapting a stage play. There's a lot of what it is. And actually finding a place where you don't know what it is sounds like a very good place to start.
Right. So not knowing and having curiosity gives you energy to get going.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
And that's part of the fun of writing, is that curiosity, and the characters start, responding to that curiousness.
Yeah. And that's the first time I've heard you use the word fun. It all sounded pretty serious up until that point.
Yeah.
But even now I can see your energies lift a little bit. So we said you want at the beginning of this, you wanted to get some different insight and a way forward. How are we doing on that?
I think we're doing really well. I think that other character establishing herself in my head feels very powerful.
Okay. And just let me double check. What else might need to happen for you to really get into the process that you now know you understand and feel comfortable with?
I think I just need to start there. I need to start
Just
at that
start there.
place with her, and then see when the other character joins, or see when she comes into contact with the other character.
Okay. And very specifically, we're getting close to our time, but very specifically in terms of next steps and action, what will happen?
I will pick a start place for her story and begin.
Okay. And I'm going to really know you here, Tom. When are you going to do this?
I will do that as soon as this call ends, Phil. I'll be on it.
But I'd like to keep on check with your progress, Tom, and see how this goes. Sounds like a really interesting project. Are you okay if we stop there? We're about on our time.
That was great. Thank you. That was really useful.
Okay, thank you. Pippa.
Thanks very much. Well done, Phil. Well done, Tom. Thank you very much for the demo. So that's given you an idea of what a coaching session for writers might look like.